Euro versus Yuan by www.options-trading-education.com. Over 4 decades, the Chinese economy has grown at a frenzied pace, outdistancing individual European nations. Today, the Chinese economic miracle is a bit tarnished as investors distrust the stats provided by Chinese leaders. The point of this for Forex traders is that the euro is likely to rise based on better European Union performance, and the yuan is likely to fall based on the Chinese economy coming back to reality. Reuters writes about Europe's resilience versus the Chinese slump. European shares rose on Wednesday after business activity data pointed to steady growth across the continent, contrasting starkly with figures that showed the biggest contraction in Chinese manufacturing sector since the global financial crisis. The Chinese Purchasing Managers Index intensified fears that a slowdown in the world's second-largest economy will spread more widely, hitting Asian markets, but those fears were later allayed by the European PMIs. Headwinds from the emerging market turmoil are not derailing the Eurozone recovery, said Marco Valli, chief Eurozone economist at Unicredit. While weakness in world trade is unlikely to be reversed soon, the latest news from China points to a further loss of momentum there. The Eurozone continues to benefit from past euro depreciation and the recovery in domestic demand, he said. China is likely going to end up with a growth rate more similar to that of the European Union and North America than its previous 10% per year growth rate. Our belief is that when the yuan is allowed to float, that it will fall substantially. Traders will want to buy options to trade accordingly. Free-floating yuan. China wants the yuan to be one of the most reserved currencies with the International Monetary Fund. In order to accomplish this, the Chinese need to let the yuan float with the market and not limit its trading range. The Australian Financial Review notes that China seems optimistic about the yuan being added to the IMF currency basket. Beijing has launched a major diplomatic push for the yuan's inclusion in the IMF basket as part of its long-term strategic goal of reducing dependence on the US dollar, and France said on Friday it would back the bid. Jin Zhongjia, executive director for China on the IMF's policy-making board, said China would respect the IMF's decision on whether to include the yuan currency in the special drawing rights (SDR) basket, but was hoping for a positive outcome. The yuan, also known as the renminbi, was already ranked as a top exporting currency, he said. More importantly, China can potentially satisfy all of the operational requirements for being a reserve currency in the SDR basket, Jean said at an Atlantic Council event. China had an active currency market, had recently liberalized interest rates and opened interbank bond markets, and would soon open its currency market to foreign institutions, he said. The IMF will decide in November if the yuan is to be included in the basket of reserve currencies, which now includes the US dollar, euro, Great Britain pound, and the yen. The problem for China is that considering its slowing economy, the yuan is currently overpriced. Economists predict a fall of the yuan between 2.6% and 17.8% against the dollar by the end of the year. The euro. Bloomberg says the euro area is on track for steady growth. This is good news for the euro. The euro area economy probably maintained its 0.4% rate of expansion in the third quarter and will continue to grow amid rising orders and backlogs of work, according to market economics. While a purchasing managers index for manufacturing and services slipped to 53.9 in September from 54.3 in August, the third quarter average stood at the highest level in more than 4 years, according to a report published on Wednesday. New orders grew at the fastest rate in 5 months, and a gauge for the amount of raw materials bought by manufacturers stood at a 19-month high, signaling increasing production in the coming months. The PMI in the Eurozone is 53.9, and the PMI in China fell to 47.0, the worst since the depths of the Great Recession. If you are trading the euro versus the yuan, it is pretty clear which direction to trade for the immediate future. For more insights and useful information about options and options trading, visit www.options-trading-education.com.